Bonnie Lipton smiled as she drove her BMW onto the Atlanta freeway. She knew she'd arrive home a couple hours later than she'd planned, but she'd just write it off to the famous Atlanta traffic jams. Nick made the delayed departure worth the lost time. He's almost 10 years younger than Bonnie and an excellent lover. He is handsome, smart, an excellent conversationalist, and young enough to recover quickly. Bonnie's thoughts then turned to her husband, Ron. He had just turned 44 and lacked Nick's stamina. To make their sex life very enjoyable, he relied on his experience and knowledge of Bonnie's body. After sex with Nick, it was always a pleasure to come home and fall asleep in his arms. She realized she had the best of both worlds, and her smile grew even wider. The farther she got away from Atlanta, the less she thought about Nick. He's fun to be with, but Ron and her daughter Casey are the ones she loves. Bonnie wanted to spend time with them now that her libido was fully satisfied. She understood her moods. Back home, she would be patient and loving with Ron. He is a wonderful man and an exceptional husband. Casey was athletic and smart. She had many friends from sports and school activities. It was not unusual for 2 or 3 of her girlfriends to gather at the house on weekends. Bonnie enjoyed socializing with the young women, and they seemed to look up to her as a role model. Bonnie made sure that she was always well-dressed. She held an excellent position in an architectural firm and was well respected in the community. She and Ron were well known both individually and as a couple. Ron now ran his family's successful construction company. He was never so busy that he didn't go to all of Casey's activities at school. Bonnie always enjoyed sitting next to Ron as they watched their daughter play or perform. She knew that more than a few other fathers enjoyed sneaking glances at her, but she also noticed that many mothers looked at Ron as if they were the vultures, and he was the victim on the road. Even when Bonnie sat next to him, the women often took the time to chat and flirt with him. Her handsome husband never seemed to notice it, but to Bonnie, it was all very noticeable. After a few hours on the road, Bonnie pulled into her garage and discovered that her husband's pickup truck was gone. This was unusual and unexpected. Bonnie felt her mood begin to change. The least her husband could do was be home to greet her after a grueling business conference and a long drive home. The house was empty as Bonnie walked to the master bedroom. She couldn't figure out what caused it, but deep in her gut, a nauseous feeling had set in. It was almost lunchtime and no one was home. The next day was Thursday, which meant Ron had work and Casey had school. That meant they should be home soon, so Bonnie unpacked before taking a shower. As she pondered Ron and Casey's unexplained absence, Bonnie remembered that her phone was off. It had been off since dinner the previous evening. On the way home, she was deep in thought and didn't think about why no one was calling her. Ron might have been angry because she never called to thank him for the string of pearls. The previous evening, when her fire had been stoked by Nick, she had completely forgotten about him. Wiping her hair with a towel, she turned on her phone. Ron congratulated himself once again on his simple but brilliant plan to please and surprise his wife. He had known for months about the conference she had planned in Atlanta. Bonnie attended them twice a year. As fate would have it, this conference fell on his 20th wedding anniversary. A few weeks before, Ron had been approached about building a large vacation home for a family from Atlanta. Once the business portion of the meeting was completed and Ron felt comfortable with the client, Boyd Drake, he expressed an idea that had only recently formed in his mind. Boyd, on the 10th of next month, it's our anniversary. My wife will be attending a conference in downtown Atlanta. I'd like to surprise her and her co-worker with a nice dinner at a nice restaurant somewhere near her hotel. To top it off, I bought a pearl necklace that I would like to have presented to her at her desk when she dines. My daughter should organize that for you, Boyd stated. She's in college now and knows all the good places in town. She could see to it that the necklace gets into your wife's hands. Sounds like you're planning on getting lucky when your wife gets home. Why don't you just go with her to Atlanta and deliver it yourself? I've offered in the past, but Bonnie insists she's too busy to spend time with me. She'll have a late dinner and get back to the hotel as soon as possible so she can rest up for the next day. I have obligations here, and traveling so far away just to be ignored seems a little silly, Ron reasoned. I have another idea, Ron added. How about I buy your daughter and her friend dinner if she agrees to sit at the table next to Bonnie and send me a live video on Facebook? I'd love to see Bonnie's surprised look when she opens the box containing the necklace. "I'll give you my daughter's number and you can call or text her and set it up," Boyd replied. "I'm sure she'd be glad to help pull this off." Ron had several pizzas delivered to the house for the party he was throwing in honor of his 20th anniversary. He invited his parents, Bonnie's parents, his brother and sister-in-law, and Bonnie's younger divorced sister. They were all expecting to see Bonnie in real time as he surprised her with an anniversary gift. Ron's 16-year-old daughter, Casey, was also there with a few of her friends. Ron had everything set up so they could watch the video on the big screen TV. Boyd's daughter would sit as close to Bonnie as she could without making her suspicious. She would send the video to me via Facebook Live. She paid a waiter to deliver a wrapped gift after Bonnie and her coworker Sue order their food. We'll see Bonnie's reaction in real time. It's going to be the best anniversary ever considering we're so far apart, Ron explained with a happy smile. I've set everything up so that no sound will be transmitted from our side, so feel free to make comments, including about what a great idea I had. "Who's the guy with the mom?" Casey asked as Bonnie came into view, holding hands with a handsome young man. "Didn't you say she was going to be with Sue?" "I don't know who he is," Ron admitted. "He seems to be a pretty close friend." Bonnie's father just made a harumph sound and frowned at Ron's statement. As the couple took their seats, everyone gathered around Ron's TV could easily hear the conversation. "Very nice of your husband to pay for our dinner tonight," the unknown male remarked with a chuckle. "I'll do my best to make this anniversary a memorable one, at least for you. It'll be even better than your honeymoon." "Then you'd better order a steak," Bonnie replied with a smirk. "You'll need your strength. My honeymoon was epic." "Wasn't it?" the man asked. "Did you have a lover then, or did your husband actually manage to ring the chimes?" "Ron did a great job, thanks for asking," Bonnie replied. "You're the only lover I've had in the last 20 years, not counting Ron, of course." "Fortunately for me, he's starting to slow down," the man replied with a chuckle. "The good news is this. You're going to have a much better 20th anniversary tonight than most women do. I'll make sure of that." "Maybe we've seen enough already," Sister Bonnie suggested nervously. "That's not really fair. Bonnie has no idea what we're watching and listening to. Why don't you turn it off, Ron?" "We don't want to miss Bonnie's reaction when she gets her necklace, do we?" asked a determined but very red-faced Ron. "Let's watch this train wreck a little longer." As the couple placed their order, everyone heard Bonnie call her date, Nick. As the waiter left with the menu, another waiter appeared with a beautifully wrapped package. "Look! Ron must have delivered my wedding anniversary present," Bonnie exclaimed in delight, tearing open the package. "Isn't it beautiful?" Bonnie asked, looking at the string of pearls. "Would you mind clasping it on me?" "Sure, just lean toward me," said Nick, carefully clasping the necklace. Having accomplished his task, he quickly ran his hands over Bonnie's breasts. "Your husband is so romantic. You're lucky to have such a handsome man," remarked an older woman sitting at a neighboring table. "True on both counts," Nick agreed with a smile. "She has a romantic husband and a handsome boyfriend." Bonnie looked at Nick, but the older women just laughed at his comment. "I gave you a pearl necklace last night that I think looks much better on you than this one," Nick joked, leaning over and kissing Bonnie on the lips. "That's the difference between a husband and a lover," Bonnie said with a sexy grin. "Husbands give us jewelry and lovers give us finishes." "I'm sorry, but I can't take it anymore," whispered a beautiful red-haired girl who must have been Boyd's daughter, turning her phone around. "I should have stopped earlier, but I was so stunned that I went into shock. I'm so sorry for the way things turned out. I'll be sure to erase everything off my phone. I have to go now." The TV turned off and everyone sat in stunned silence. One of Casey's friends was the first to speak. "It's getting late. We better get going. I'll see you at school tomorrow." "If I go at all," Casey replied with tears in her eyes. "Daddy, is it okay if I go home with my friends? I feel like I need to be with them right now." "Sure, sweetie, I understand. We'll talk tomorrow. Drive safe, girls." Ron had to practically whisper, his throat so dry. "I don't know what to say," Bonnie's mother began. "I think we've gotten the wrong impression of what's going on. Bonnie loves you, Ron, and she'd give her life for Casey. Don't do anything rash." The rest of Ron's guests mostly echoed those words, quietly discussing the situation. After a few more minutes of quiet discussion, Ron made a decision. "I have a lot to think about everything. Please find your own way out and give me some time to be alone and think about my options." When everyone had left, Ron pulled out his suitcase and started packing. Bonnie was surprised at the number of messages she had received and missed calls since she had turned her phone off the previous evening. As she looked through the messages, her heart sank. Her sister and mother demanded to know who Nick was and why she was so friendly with him. They insisted that she had broken Ron's heart, and Casey was very upset as well. Her mother and sister sent her at least a dozen messages each. Bonnie checked her messages to see if she had anything from Ron and found that she didn't. How did her family know about Nick, and how much do they really know? Where are Ron and Casey? How would she get out of the hole she found herself in? She needed to find out exactly what Ron knew, as well as what he merely suspected. Bonnie realized that she needed to talk to her family members to understand just how bad her situation was. "Mom? It's me. I forgot that I turned my phone off last night," Bonnie began as calmly as she could. "I see you've been trying to reach me. Is there something wrong?" "Only if you think losing your husband, alienating and embarrassing your daughter, embarrassing your parents, and acting like an inveterate whore can be considered wrong. I guess it doesn't bother you much. Or you wouldn't be enjoying a damn pearl necklace from your boyfriend," her mother ranted. "Ron was the one who gave me a string of pearls for our anniversary," Bonnie objected. "Why should that upset you? Your father and I have seen enough old porno movies to know what your young man meant by you wearing his pearl necklace," Bonnie's not-so-straightforward mother said. "Mom! What makes you think I would do something like that? What makes you think I have a boyfriend?" Bonnie asked as fear tied a knot in her gut. "Don't play games with me. I'm not stupid," growled her mother. "Ron invited us over to watch you open his 20th anniversary present at a restaurant. He made reservations for you and your co-worker. I think her name was Sue. We've seen the whole sordid affair. Your husband treats you like a queen and you don't respect him. Husbands give jewelry and lovers give finishers, I think you said." "Did you hear me say that?" a shocked Bonnie asked. "How is that possible?" Ron had asked some friend's daughter to do some sort of live broadcast from his phone. He wanted us to see how excited you were about his present. Then we were all going to call and wish you a happy anniversary, the mother said sadly. "It looks like it might be your last anniversary, at least with Ron. Maybe you'll get to see your favorite boy again when things settle down." "Mom, you know I love Ron. That other boy means nothing to me. It was just something to pass the time. These conferences are getting boring," Bonnie insisted. "Oh, that changes everything," her mother stated sarcastically. "Ron would feel a lot better knowing that his wife wasn't a slutty prostitute and she was just bored. I guess you left your puzzle at home." "Mom, calling me names is useless. How do I convince Ron that he's the only man I love?" "You haven't even convinced me, so I'd say you've got some work to do," Mother replied. "Watching you with that man is the worst thing I've ever seen. I highly doubt Ron has found it any better." After talking to her mother, Bonnie pondered her situation. Her entire family had seen and heard everything she and Nick had discussed at dinner the night before. Remembering her conversation with Nick, Bonnie realized how bad her situation was. She decided to call Casey. "Casey, where are you?" Bonnie asked when Casey answered her call. "I'm with Morgan. She's trying to console me about my family breaking up," Bonnie's daughter replied. "We're not breaking up. Please come home and we'll talk about it." "Where is your father?" Bonnie asked uncertainly. "He moved to a cottage on the lake," Casey replied. "I don't think he wants to see you. He was so happy last night when he invited everyone over to watch you open your present. You practically ripped his heart out when you showed up with your lover instead of Sue." "Please come home," Bonnie repeated, trying to think of what she could say to Ron to get his forgiveness. Finished talking to Casey, Bonnie began to look around the house. She noticed that Ron's laptop and several filing cabinets were gone from his office. The closet in his bedroom was completely emptied. It was as empty as Hubbard's mother's closet. Bonnie fought back tears as she wandered aimlessly through the house, noting what things were missing. Ron hadn't taken a single picture of her presence. That fact seemed particularly depressing. Looking for something to take her mind off her disintegrating marriage, Bonnie began cooking dinner for Casey. By the time Casey walked in the door, she had managed to prepare a small meal. Casey was sullen and only spoke to Bonnie when she was asked a direct question. Even then, Casey answered as briefly as possible. Bonnie admitted to herself that her daughter had good reason to be angry with her, but hoped that in time the hostility would at least diminish, if not disappear altogether. The next morning at dawn, Bonnie walked into their lake house and found Ron uncomfortably hunched over and passed out on the small couch. Numerous empty beer cans were strewn across the floor. "Ron? Honey, we need to talk. Can't you wake up, please?" Ron slowly opened his eyes and groaned. He slowly got up and, without saying a word, headed for the bathroom. Bonnie decided to make some coffee while she waited for her husband to return. A few minutes later, Ron, who had just showered, returned to the kitchen, and Bonnie placed a mug in front of him. Bonnie had hoped that Ron would start a difficult conversation, but that hope soon faded. It was obvious that Ron had no intention of starting a conversation. "Ron, I'm sorry about what happened. I love pearls. They were a wonderful gift that I will always treasure. I wish I'd known you were giving it to your family. It would have been nice if you'd told me." "Fuck you," was all Ron could reply, as he was furious at Bonnie's attempt to make him look like an abuser. Bonnie was surprised and hurt by Ron's response. In all their years together, he had never spoken to her in a disrespectful manner. It was a clear indication of the pain she had caused him. "That won't help," Bonnie replied calmly. "Tell me, what do I have to do to make this right? You're the only man I've ever loved. That hasn't changed. Together, we can work through this." "Tell me, what exactly is the problem you want to solve?" Ron asked calmly. "The problem that I surprised you with an anniversary present at a nice restaurant where I'd made reservations for you and your friend? The problem that my client's daughter agreed to send a live video of your reaction? The problem that I mistakenly thought you would appreciate this gift? Explain to me what the problem is so I know what you're talking about." "You know what the problem is," Bonnie insisted. "You saw me and Nick at the restaurant last night. I know you have dinner with others from time to time. What makes you think that's the problem?" Ron asked. "You know perfectly well why it's a problem. I told you I was going to dinner with Sue, but I actually went with Nick. You overheard us talking and found out we slept together. That's the problem we need to work on. Just to be clear, is the problem that I, along with your entire family, overheard your conversation, or is the problem that you spread your legs for other men?" "The problem is my behavior," Bonnie admitted, blushing, realizing that going on the offensive wasn't going to work in her current situation. "You were just trying to be nice to me on our anniversary. You didn't do anything wrong." "Okay, we're making progress. Now tell me why you've been sleeping behind my back for how long? And with how many men?" Ron demanded. "Casey is my biological daughter? Is there no chance her father was a mailman?" "There's no need to be vulgar or offensive," an emotionally stunned Bonnie declared. "Of course Casey is your daughter. Nick is my only lover since we started dating. Your comment about how many men I've had and that Casey's father is a mailman was just cruel." "I'm having a hard time understanding your logic," Ron objected. "You admit that you're a cheating slut, but you insist on drawing a line as to how big a slut you are? You want me to be polite and understanding, not to mention gullible when you tell me you are a one-man whore. Are you proud of the fact that you didn't cheat on me that often? By the way, how long did you sleep with Greasy Nick and how often? You forgot to mention those important facts when you started giving up the title of town slut." "It was the third conference we slept together," Bonnie admitted tearfully as she finally began to feel the depth of Ron's anger and humiliation. "Besides you, he's the only man I've been with since we were married 20 years ago." "It'll be 2 nights together at each of the 3 conferences," Ron said. "Have you ever slept with him anywhere else?" "No," Bonnie said. It was a total of 6 times, and I deeply regret it. I owe you an apology. Are you telling me that a young stud like Nick was only capable of 1 time a night with a hottie like you? Ron asked. He never had you more than once a night? What's the difference? A discouraged Bonnie asked. We probably did it 3 times every night. Now for the big question, Ron announced. Why did you sleep with another man? Was sex with me so thankless, so ordinary, so pathetic, that you needed to find a younger, more satisfying lover? Of course not. I was bored and he pursued me relentlessly. I was weak. This isn't about you or our sex life. It's about my vanity, maybe my midlife crisis. He means nothing to me. I swear. I see. You had sex with a man who meant nothing to you, Ron repeated. You slept with Mr. Jenkins? Yeah. The guy who lives down the street and wears those ridiculous shirts? A very embarrassed Bonnie asked. Of course not. I hardly know him, but I find him repulsive. So he doesn't mean anything to you? Ron continued. You just told me that you sleep with men you don't love and who mean nothing to you. Jenkins fits that description, so why don't you spread your legs for him? I didn't say I sleep with every man who means nothing to me, explained an upset Bonnie. I slept with Nick because he's handsome, suave, and successful. He pursued me, and that— Are you telling me you're only going to spread your legs for the handsome, successful men who chase you? Other than a few guys like that, are you a faithful wife? If you don't love the men you sleep with, doesn't it follow that you don't love me? No! I'm telling you I made a terrible mistake and it will never happen again, Bonnie said with emotion. I love you, but not Nick. How do I know that? Ron asked quietly. At our wedding and several other times over the years, you promised to be faithful to me. You're a beautiful woman. Beautiful, successful men will always pursue you. I can't trust you. I can't even give you the great sex you like so much. Don't ever think that, Ron. I love sex with you. It's special and it makes me feel loved, Bonnie replied. What did Nick make you feel that you kept going back to him? Ron asked softly. Dirty? Used? Not like a mother or a wife. It was the wrongness that pulled me in, not love. It's hard for me to accept that you're willing to do so much more for a man who means nothing to you than for the man you love, Ron reasoned. You told me on our honeymoon that I'd be the only man you'd ever love, Ron recalled. You and Smudgy must have laughed at me a lot. It wasn't like that. He never talked about you. I would never let that happen, Bonnie insisted. You seem to forget that I heard a few minutes of your conversation. That asshole insulted me several times and you went along with it. Remember how I'm slowing down? That he would give you a better 20th anniversary than most wives have. You didn't object, did you? Why are we even wasting time here? Ron suddenly demanded. You've found someone new. I accept that. Seems like you should too. Why pretend you want to stay married? It's pretty obvious you didn't like being my wife, and let's not even talk about the bad sex. You're beautiful, successful, and smart, and I bring nothing to the table. It was only a matter of time before you started looking for something better. Congratulations, you found it. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Ron, we can't let this discussion end this badly. We have to talk this out and find a way back, Bonnie pleaded tearfully. You can have your lawyer talk to my lawyer. It's over between us, Bonnie. I'm going to divorce you. You've left me no choice. Bonnie went to work that day, but was caught in the break room by an angry Sue. Why was Ron asking me about going to Atlanta with you for the conference? You know damn well I stopped going to them after you decided to spend the nights with that Romeo from the Chicago office. I don't want you using me as a cover for your infidelity. Ron called you. What did you say to him? Bonnie asked dejectedly. The truth. I didn't go to the last 2 conferences. I was under the impression that you told him we were going to share a room and spend the conference together, Sue complained. I don't like being used like that. It won't be a problem anymore. Ron learned everything on this trip. I think he's going to divorce me, Bonnie admitted. What other outcome could you possibly expect? Sue demanded. No decent man could accept that level of disrespect. I was too damn stupid and self-centered to even think about Ron finding out about it, Bonnie replied frankly. He moved out. Don't you think you made your choice when you slept with that nasty bastard from Chicago? Sue asked a little softer. I'm sorry you lost Ron, but I warned you this would happen if you kept this up. I wasn't the one who told him, if that's what you're thinking. I know, Sue. I owe you an apology. I abused your friendship. I wish I'd listened to you, but I was smart as hell, and I had a right. I don't deserve a man like Ron. After finding out that Bonnie was cheating on him, Ron took the day off work. He was determined to move all of his belongings to the lake house before Bonnie got home. He didn't want to hear her reasons and excuses for cheating. He hated to think of life without Bonnie, but he knew he could never forgive her callous disregard for his feelings, nor her ambivalent attitude toward loyalty and respect. Her unexpected visit the next morning simply exposed the vast emotional gulf that separated them. She said nothing to help him forgive her infidelity. He made an appointment with his lawyer for the next day. The next day, he was preparing to leave the office to meet with the divorce attorney when he received a new email. It was from Bonnie. He considered whether he should read it or just delete it. After debating internally, he opened the email. In her typical fashion, Bonnie had tackled the problem head-on. He felt nothing but despair as he read her message. Ron, I know I really screwed up this time. I was stupid enough to think as if you would never find out and my actions wouldn't hurt you. I was wrong. Lying and cheating destroys marriages, even if one partner doesn't know it's happening. You deserve so much better than that. I have never wanted anything in my life as much as I want you to forgive me, but I will not challenge any of your actions regarding our marriage. I have forfeited my right to participate in your decision. I love you and wish you the best. You're a wonderful man, husband and father. This is entirely on my conscience. I accept that truth, even though I hate that I did that to us. You may not believe it, but I love you and I always will. Bonnie. Reading Bonnie's confession and her plea for forgiveness, Ron held back tears. It was like her to accept blame for her actions when she had time to think about the situation. She was a strong woman who demanded the best from others as well as herself. He felt devastated and saw no reason to respond to the letter. He had nothing else to say. After that morning when Bonnie arrived at Ron's lake house, her only source of information about Ron was Casey. On Friday afternoon, Casey called Bonnie to tell her that she would be going to her father's cabin for the weekend. Ron would bring her home Sunday night. Bonnie realized that this was how her life was going to continue. She spent the miserable weekend thinking about how badly she had messed up her life. She had no idea how she could fix her mistake, or if it was even possible to fix it. Had she completely ruined her once happy marriage? Back home on Sunday night, Casey looked rather glum. Dad has decided to divorce you. He can't live with someone who has lost all respect for him. I saw him cry several times this weekend. I've never seen that before in my entire life. Do you have any idea how much you hurt him? Your boyfriend is probably a much better guy than your dad. He's not my boyfriend, and he can't compare to your dad, replied a shocked Bonnie. It was a huge mistake, and I deeply regret it. Your father is the best man I've ever known. Forgive both Dad and me for being skeptical, Casey replied. This isn't the first time you've slept with that bastard, is it? You've been lying to us for years, haven't you? Bonnie realized it was time to stop lying to her family. I slept with him at 2 conferences before this last one. It was wrong, and I apologize. It was wrong. That's putting it mildly, don't you think, Mom? Casey objected angrily. You betrayed your father in the worst possible way. Didn't you swear to be faithful when you married him? Didn't you cross your fingers at that moment that it wouldn't count? I know you're upset with me, but not as much as I am. Your father is a wonderful man and a great father. You know that. What I did doesn't mean I think the worst of him. I did a very stupid thing, Bonnie admitted sadly. Whatever you say, Casey said and went to her room. Bonnie's life returned to normal. She and Casey barely spoke to each other. Her life raft was work. Everything remained normal there, except for Sue's cold attitude toward her. She went to Casey's school events, but usually sat alone unless her mom came with her. That was the only time she saw Ron. He always sat as far away from her as possible, and the other parents were quick to notice. It soon became known that they were getting a divorce. Bonnie periodically heard fathers, both single and married, make lewd remarks and suggestions. It was quite obvious that the rumor of Bonnie's infidelity had spread throughout the community. Ron plunged headlong into his business. That was the upside of the whole fiasco. The irony was that Bonnie would get half of the business. His attorney suggested several tactics that could reduce Bonnie's share of the business, but Ron refused to listen. Bonnie worked beside me and even gave part of her salary to keep us afloat when we first took over the family business, Ron insisted. If it weren't for her, we'd have nothing to share. I'm not going to deny the facts. Bonnie was very surprised when her attorney explained to her how Ron was ceding half of his ownership of the business to her. A few years earlier, when Ron was going through a cash flow crisis, Ron's best friend Dan had bought the company. Dan was a silent partner who owned 1/3 of the company. By ceding half of their shared ownership to Bonnie, Ron was in a vulnerable position. He owned and controlled only 1/3 of the business. "Tell Ron that this is too much," Bonnie insisted to her lawyer. "He was the one who was giving the business all of his time and energy. If he insists on giving me a share, tell him I'll settle for 1/10 of what we own. He'll retain control without a possible dispute." Ron was nothing but stubborn. When the snow melted the following spring, Bonnie was once again a single woman and the third owner of Lipton Enterprises. She couldn't even convince Ron to talk to her on the phone. He cut her out of his life completely. Casey told Bonnie that she wanted to spend the summer between her junior and senior year of high school at the lake house with her father. Bonnie knew that this was another attempt by Casey to punish her, but resigned herself to the fact that she deserved her daughter's scorn. Ron, for his part, was delighted. He had drawn up plans to nearly double the size of the cabin. Owning a construction company, he easily completed construction by the end of July. It was now a 3-bedroom lake house. Each bedroom had its own bathroom and a nice view of the lake. It was a completely modernized and comfortable home. The first weekend in August, Ron threw an open house for his friends and neighbors at the lake. All of Casey's girlfriends were invited. One of them brought an older cousin that Ron couldn't help but notice. She was a bright blonde who was complimented very well by a rather modest 2-piece swimsuit. As the day went on, Ron noticed that this girl was around him most of the time. She laughed at his jokes and flirted with him every chance she got. "So, Dad, are you trying to get into Patty's little bikini?" Casey asked at one point when they were alone in the kitchen. "Of course not," Ron protested. "She can't be more than 25, and I haven't decided to start dating yet." "She's 27, and she seems very interested in you," Casey said with a knowing smile. "She asks how long you've been single, how old you are, what you do for a living, all the things women want to know about potential husbands." "I just met her today," Ron replied. "Don't even think about mentioning the word marriage to me. I tried it once and that was enough." "I'm not implying anything except that she seems interested. I wouldn't mind if you went out with her. She's pretty nice and you need someone to help you get over your mom. From what I've seen, Patty's in no hurry to get married. I think she's working on her career right now, but that doesn't mean she doesn't enjoy male companionship." "Thanks for enlightening me," Ron joked, turning to his daughter. "This girl is too attractive to be interested in an old guy like me, but thanks for trusting me. I appreciate your faith in me." Bonnie's company occupied the top 2 floors of an office building in the business district. At the end of the same block was a very popular Italian bistro. She usually had lunch there every Thursday with a few of her friends from work. Since she kept an informal lunch schedule, she often saw the same people eating lunch at the same time. Bonnie and her co-workers had made friends with employees from several other companies in her building. One afternoon, the bistro was unusually crowded, and Bonnie's group was unable to get a table. One of the employees of Benson Advertising, located on the 2nd floor of her building, invited her group to join them at a large table. They quickly accepted the invitation. After everyone gave their first and last names as introductions, the conversation began. One of the women in the advertising group was particularly attractive and very friendly. Bonnie felt that she enjoyed this young woman's good humor. She smiled as the other ladies began to tease the woman. "We don't all have a rich guy with a big house on Lake Henry?" teased the woman Bonnie knew as Mary. "It must be nice to wake up with the morning sun reflecting off the lake." "Yes," the young woman agreed, especially with a handsome guy gently caressing me. Getting out of bed is a hassle. If this is the guy who picked you up after work on Thursday, I can see why that might be a problem, the other woman said. He looks a little older than you, but he seems to be in good shape. He has all the hair and he's pretty plain looking. Ron is everything and more, the young woman offered, smiling broadly. He's a really nice guy and a very good lover. Bonnie's friend immediately asked the very question Bonnie didn't want to even consider. You're not talking about Ron Lipton, are you? Do you know Ron? The young beauty asked before adding, You have to admit he's good looking. He's a great guy, but he used to be Bonnie's husband, said her colleague. I think we should change the subject. Don't be so dramatic, Bonnie insisted, leaning over to the young woman and extending her hand. I'm Bonnie Lipton. I didn't catch your name. Patty Lawson. Ron said his ex-wife was beautiful, but I thought he must be blinded by love, Patty admitted. Turns out he didn't give you the credit you deserve. I hope you won't be upset that I'm living with Ron now. I certainly can't blame you, or him for that matter, Bonnie answered honestly. You're a beautiful young woman with an amazing figure. I can easily see why Ron likes you. I wonder why Casey never said anything to me about you. I can't speak for Casey, but I want to say that you have done a wonderful job raising your daughter. She is very smart and thoughtful and beautiful, just like her mother. I love it when she visits us, Patty concluded. That evening, Bonnie questioned Casey as they ate dinner. Why didn't you tell me that your father has a beautiful girl moving in with him? That's something I would have been interested in. Honestly, Mom, I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I know how you feel about Dad, Casey replied. I'm still upset that you cheated on him, but I don't want to make you unhappy because of your bad choices. Patty actually feels good about Daddy. He finally seems happy again. This may surprise you, but it makes me happy to hear that Ron is happy. He is a wonderful man and deserves to be with a woman who loves him, even if it's not me. I don't think she outright loves Daddy, but she likes him a lot. She has made it clear that her career comes first for her in the next few years. She wants to be very successful in marketing. Aren't you going to start dating, Mom? Have you been in touch with your boyfriend since the conferences? Do you think you might hit it off with him? Casey asked. Nick, he's not the kind of person I'd look for in a relationship, Bonnie admitted. He's shallow, a little rude, selfish, and vain. I never thought of him as anything more than entertainment. Turns out he made my life a living hell, even though I knew what I was doing. I shouldn't blame him for my weakness. Are you interested in anyone? Casey asked. You're still beautiful. I've noticed how some fathers and teachers look up to you and go out of their way to be nice to you at school events. Honestly, I think Ron spoiled me for other men, Bonnie replied with a sad smile. The reason for our divorce is known to most people in the neighborhood. It makes women sympathize with your father and men think of me as easy prey. I may have been easy for Nick, but I won't make that mistake again. I just don't understand how you could cheat on your father if you love him so much, Casey wondered. He's always treated you with love and respect. What went wrong? I've been asking myself that question, Bonnie admitted. I think I started to take your father for granted. I knew he loved me, and I was very sure of that love. Somehow that translated into trying another man, maybe because I knew I had a solid backup at home. Ron was my anchor. He was always there for me. I foolishly assumed he would always be there for me. I could lose my way a little, and he wouldn't know it and still have my devoted husband at home. I pray you find a man like Ron when you are ready to start a family, and use my experience as a cautionary tale. Never take more in a relationship than you give. Be faithful, loyal, and honest. If you think of something that could hurt your relationship, discuss it with your husband. I showed you what happens when you lie and cheat. Sometimes Bonnie would run into Patty during lunch. She was surprised at how much she liked the woman. She was also embarrassed that she was looking forward to any news regarding Ron. Casey didn't want to tell Bonnie too much about her father. Being his daughter, she couldn't be privy to some of the more personal aspects of his life. Patty, on the other hand, was eager to discuss Ron with her friends. Bonnie, it's quite obvious that you still love Ron, Patty remarked one day when the two women were having lunch. He never says anything bad about you, but it's obvious that you've hurt him badly. I'm not here to judge you, but I have to say that I would never cheat if I were in a relationship. I find it hard to believe that you did. Everything I see and hear from you shows that you love and respect him. I would urge you to remember that when the flame of passion wanes and your daily life takes over, Bonnie replied. I've lost my way and I've paid for it. Love isn't always about rough sex and great vacations. Sometimes it's trying to decide when to pump out the septic tank or what color to paint the house. Things get mundane, but that's okay. Ron is an honest businessman, an attentive, loyal friend, and a great father. I will always love him, but I betrayed him in the worst way a wife can. I learned my lesson. I guess I was too late to wise up. I told Ron last night that I'm accepting a position in Seattle and I'll be leaving in 2 weeks. It's a great opportunity for me. I told him from the beginning that I was putting my career first. But I can see that my news upset him, Patty said. I'm telling you this so you know what he's going through and maybe help him if he gets depressed. He really is a great guy. He's just not my forever guy. I'm sure he'll miss you a lot. Ron doesn't do anything on a whim. If he asked you to live with him, it means he thinks very highly of you as a person, in addition to your beauty. He's a strong man, though. I've tested him, but he's stood up to it. He's really improved, Bonnie said with a slight smile. He'll miss you, but he's a great catch, and I doubt his bed will be empty for very long. Yes, that's why I'm giving you the information first, Patty replied with a smile of her own. What you do with it is up to you. It was only a week later when Ron's best friend and unspoken partner Dan asked Bonnie to meet him for lunch at the bistro. The room was crowded, but they found a small table off to the side. After the usual greetings and formalities, Dan explained the reason for his request to meet. You know that piece of land Ron bought on Highway 21 near the river? I've got a buyer willing to pay almost $2 million for it. Ron bought it for next to nothing. It's going to be a huge profit. Your third would be over $500,000. Ron said this land could be stolen and someday be worth a lot. Is he going to sell it? Bonnie asked, wondering how she was getting involved in the discussion. That's the problem, Dan replied. He says he feels like the company would benefit more if he offered it on a long-term lease. He'd like the contract to state that his company will build what the tenant needs for his business. That sounds like Ron, Bonnie admitted with a smile, thinking about how businesslike and savvy he was. I'm sure he's done the math, and in the long run his plan will yield more profit. What's the problem? I think we need to make a quick profit by selling the land. Planning 10 to 15 years in advance is great, but I'd like to get the money now. You own a third of the company. I own a third. Together, we could insist that Ron accept the offer and then pay us our share of the profits. Ron wouldn't get hurt. Hell, he'd get $500,000 in cash to soothe any ruffled feathers. Bonnie could feel her anger building as she listened to Dan make his offer. You're asking me to betray Ron's trust? You think money means more to me than Ron's ruffled feathers, as you call it? Let me tell you something. Ron will see this as a complete and utter betrayal by his wife and best friend. It's the worst thing you could do for him. Worse than his wife sleeping with some young guy at a conference? Dan teased. You're his ex-wife for a reason. You've already betrayed him. He divorced your cheating ass. This is a chance to get a little revenge and a good amount of money at the same time, Dan reasoned. That faithful wife shit ain't gonna fly. We both know that description doesn't fit you. I betrayed Ron and I admit it, Bonnie replied in restrained rage. I was stupid and selfish, but I never meant to hurt him. He's better than both of us and deserves much better business partners than we both will ever be. That's why I will never betray him again. I'd rather lose my last penny than hurt Ron like that. I proved I was a lousy wife, and you just proved you are a bad friend and partner. Ron will control my share of the company as long as I breathe. In fact, I will make a new will to make sure Ron gets my share even after I die. You should know better than to question his business acumen. He's forgotten more than you'll ever know, Bonnie said angrily, standing up and placing a banknote on the table to cover her uneaten lunch. Then looked Dan in the eye. Please don't try to steal this too. Almost a month later, Bonnie opened the door and saw Ron standing on the porch. She was very surprised. Ron had been avoiding her ever since the morning she'd returned from the unfortunate conference. Ron, come in. Is everything okay? Casey left a few minutes ago if you're looking for her, Bonnie said, surprised at how excited she was by Ron's presence. "I'm here to talk if you have time," Ron began, entering the house that had been his for over 15 years. "Could you spare me a few minutes? If you're busy, I'll try another time." "I'm not busy," Bonnie replied quickly. "And I just made coffee. Why don't we sit in the kitchen?" "I appreciate you seeing me on such short notice," Ron said, picking up the coffee mug. "You always made great coffee." "When we first got married, I didn't even know how to make it," Bonnie said with a grin. "It took me a while to get the hang of it." "I didn't marry you for the coffee," Ron countered. "You had other attributes that I found much more attractive." "I've never heard you call them attributes," Bonnie said, still smiling. "I've heard you call them Smith & Wesson a few times, though." "Yeah, you got the big guns, and I was powerless to resist you," Ron admitted. "Patty must have you wrapped around her finger or some body part," Bonnie remarked. "There's some serious heat coming from her." "I appreciate how well you've been treating Patty. She thinks you're a wonderful person. Her opinion of you is one of the reasons I'm here. A couple weeks ago, one of her friends overheard you talking to Dan at lunch. Patty told me about it before she left for the West Coast. She thought your loyalty and honesty were exceptional. I have to agree. After the way I treated you in the divorce, you still flatly refused Dan. Many women who have been divorced so quickly by their husband would want revenge, or at least retaliate. I would never do that to you, Ron. I know how hard you work on your projects and how much they mean to you. I also know that you will make this land generate far more income than Dan is looking for. He's a fool to doubt you," Bonnie concluded. "I appreciate your vote of confidence. Patty has helped me accept the fact that you are my partner, even though I've been running the business as if it were entirely my own. I have to give you a chance to express yourself and tell me what you want to do," Ron said. "If you want to sell the property and split the profits, I'll do it." "Dan's been urging me to sell it," Ron said. "I think he's short of money. He thinks that if we sell the land, we can each get $500,000 out of the business without hurting him. Would you want that too?" "I think you probably have plans for this property that will bring the company a good profit and the goodwill of the community," Bonnie replied with obvious pride. "You've never been looking for a quick buck. You always wanted to improve the area and still make a good living. You've got something planned for this property, haven't you?" "I've been negotiating a long-term lease with General Hospital to build an urgent care complex on the site," Ron admitted. "It won't be as profitable as the luxury condominium project Dan's company is pushing for, but it will still make a good profit, and we'll have a contract to build it. It will create jobs as well as goodwill." "I guessed it would be something like that," Bonnie replied a little smugly. "You're a good businessman, but you're also invested in the community. That's what sets you apart from people like Dan." "Dan thinks it's better to make a quick profit. I don't agree with that line of thinking. From what I understand, he came to you to pitch his idea, and you turned him down." "I trust you implicitly, Ron. You've never given me a reason not to trust you. I'll support your business decisions to the end," Bonnie promised. "It probably sounds strange when you already know you can't trust me, but it's true. I've been thinking about Dan trying to interfere with your business. It occurred to me that we should buy him out. If he doesn't have the money, he'll probably listen to a reasonable offer. He'll be happy, and you can run your business as you see fit," Bonnie reasoned. "I've thought about it, but I don't have the capital to do it," Ron agreed. "We could sell the house," Bonnie suggested. "I could rent a nice 2-bedroom apartment for Casey and me. We've built up a lot of equity over the years. The house is almost paid for, and you've made some major improvements. It'll be enough for us to buy out Dan's share. Now that we're divorced, it's your house. Are you ready to sell it and invest the money in the business?" Ron asked incredulously. "I don't know how soon I'll get a deal on the urgent care center. I can't guarantee that you'll get your money back anytime soon, or even that you'll get it at all." "Do I look worried?" Bonnie joked. "Don't forget that I've been married to you for 20 years. You'll pay it all back with interest. If for some reason you don't, that's okay. I owe you, Ron. Money will never make up for my disrespect, but it will get you rid of Dan." "I'll agree to that if you come and live at the lake house with Casey and me," Ron said, then added quickly, "You'll have your own room with your own bathroom. That was really nice." "I don't think it'll work," Bonnie replied sadly. It's a privacy issue, not to mention dating and all the drama it would create for you. I'm sorry, I didn't think about your social life, Ron apologized. Of course you wouldn't want to bring a beau into the house when your ex-husband lives there, especially that guy Nick. It would be awkward. I don't date and I'm not going to start, Bonnie replied. I stopped going to conferences and haven't talked to Nick since that disastrous trip. You're the one who's going to be uncomfortable. No woman is going to want to spend the night with you when your ex is sleeping in the next room. If I'm around, it will be extremely unlikely to find a woman that will agree to move in with you, although I'm not ruling out the possibility. I've seen women fall in love with you. I divorced you because you slept with that guy and then I moved Patty in with you. My behavior wasn't the best example for Casey, was it? Ron asked rhetorically. My only excuse is that I was depressed and lonely. Another man had taken my wife away from me and my self-confidence was pretty low. Patty was able to rebuild it for me. I'm sorry that I damaged your self-esteem. I wish it had never happened, but I don't blame you for having a crush on Patty. She's a beautiful woman. You're a single man and you can get into any relationship you want, Bonnie said and added, I don't think I've ever apologized properly for my behavior. It wasn't something you caused or created. It's all on my conscience. I really screwed up, and I'm truly sorry for the pain and inconvenience I caused. You really did hurt me, Bonnie. I've never been unfaithful. I lived for you and Casey. I went from having everything to feeling like a complete failure, Ron admitted. Patty helped me realize that while I may not have been the perfect husband, I wasn't the reason you cheated on me either. You could have told me that you weren't happy with our marriage, or our sex life, or whatever. I would have tried to make things better if I'd known. I was just stupid, Ron, not unhappy. You've been a very good husband, a great father to Casey, and a wonderful lover, Bonnie stated. I lost my way, and I deserve to be miserable. It sounds weird, but being miserable makes me happy. I feel like I'm paying for my sins. Why don't you at least come and see the lake house? Ron asked. I'd like to show it to you and get your opinion. I've used some of the ideas we've discussed over the years in remodeling. I think you'll approve. Casey has a volleyball match in 2 hours. Can I take advantage of this offer another time? Bonnie asked. Let's look at it before the match. We can go there together, Ron suggested. And then I'll drop you off here. Aren't you afraid people will think we're back together if we go as a couple? You usually sit as far away from me as possible, Bonnie pointed out. Yeah, I was a bit of an ass, but in my defense, you shit on me and our marriage. You couldn't expect me to be cordial to you, Ron reasoned. Actually, you've been much kinder to me than I would have been to you if it had been the other way around, Bonnie admitted. Your settlement offer was too generous, we both know that. That kindness seems to be paying off, Ron grumbled. We're thinking of selling the house to buy out Dan's share. I still find it hard to believe you're willing to do that. Honestly, Ron, you can have everything of mine that you want. You've always been honest with me. I know you won't hurt me even though I deserve it. Let me show you the lake house. Ron offered to change the subject and give himself time to calm his emotions. As Ron showed the house, Bonnie marveled at the remodeling. You've really done a great job. Casey's room is very large and she has her own bathroom. It's every teenage girl's dream. When Ron showed Bonnie the second bedroom, Bonnie felt it was time to talk about the elephant in the room. It's a beautiful room with another amazing bathroom. But I can't stay here, Ron. It would be too painful for me to see you every day and be reminded of what I've lost. We'll sell the house, and I'll get an apartment. I'll be fine. We have to leave soon for Casey's match. Let me show you the master bedroom, Ron persuaded. It's bigger than the others. I know you'll love it. It's beautiful. You've done a wonderful job, as always, Bonnie praised as she looked around. That's why your business is so successful. You have an eye for detail. Would you stay with Casey and me if you had this room? Ron asked sharply. I'd still see you every day, and I don't think I could stand it, Bonnie replied sadly. I didn't mean that it would be all yours, Ron explained nervously. I thought maybe we could share it. Bonnie raised her eyebrows, studying Ron's face. You're asking me to share your bed? Ever since the day I found out you cheated and I left home, I felt like shit. I miss you so much it hurts sometimes. You fucked up big time, but I slept with Patty for a few months. It softened your betrayal a little, but it didn't get rid of it. I wonder if we can get past all this crap and try to get back together. I don't want to be prey to you, Bonnie replied firmly. If you want to punish me more, I won't do it. If I move in with you, I'll be completely faithful and I'll expect the same from you. No more young beauties in your bed. It'll just be me there or I'll be gone in a heartbeat. I've worked hard to regain my self-respect, and I intend to keep it. I love you, Ron, but you have to be in complete agreement or I'm leaving. No one was more surprised than Casey when her parents walked into the gym under her arm. She hurried over to them to talk to them without anyone hearing. Mom, Dad, does that mean... Casey began, but Ron smiled and nodded before she could finish her question. Casey wrapped her arms around her mother and hugged her tightly, speaking in her ear. Welcome home, Mom. I love you, but don't ever cheat on Daddy again. I have a friend with a single aunt who is even prettier than Patty.